All right, Rob. So Russell Wilson, Rob G, Russell Wilson was named like Sexiest Man Alive or something like that by Essence Magazine.
Close. He was named Essence Magazine's Sexiest Man of the Moment this week. Now, I don't know if that means...
What is of the moment?
I have no idea. Maybe Sexiest Man Alive is copyrighted or whatever, but that's their version
Probably
of it.
Rob G.
Yeah. So he was their Sexiest Man of the Moment. And they did a whole feature article about him. The photos are fantastic. If you haven't seen them yet, go check them out.
Sexy?
Sure, if that's the word you want to use. But in the article, he focused a lot on his importance of his faith in his household and his family and things like that. And there was also a large portion of the feature that focused on him being a black NFL quarterback. Because, for a long time, there weren't very many of them at all. Right. And Russell Wilson himself was quoted as saying that he thinks that he feels that he blazed a new trail for black athletes in the NFL. Here's his quote. For me to be able to go back-to-back Super Bowls and win one of them, I think opened up a lot of doors. Now you see guys like Mahomes who won it. It's really just us so far, but there's more coming. The emergence of quarterbacks.
Who else? Wait a minute. He said, who else?
There's only been 3.
Okay. Yeah. I know, but he made it like it was a floodgate because come on, man. Go ahead, Rob.
So he continues. The emergence of quarterbacks like Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, to name a few, is indicative of a new era of football and a glimpse into what the sport is trending towards. What I love to see is guys getting drafted early, and a lot of teams these days have black quarterbacks playing for them. It's all across the league, and it's showing how the NFL is starting to evolve, change, and break down barriers. I think one of the biggest blessings of my career so far is that I've been fortunate to be able to open up doors for others because of what others did for me.
What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I just don't look at him as a trailblazer to open the door for black quarterbacks. I mean, I'm saying he succeeded going to back-to-back Super Bowls, Chris, a great accomplishment, but it had already started. I mean, and Doug Williams is the guy that I remember who kicked the door down in the Super Bowl, Chris. And you remember how big that was.
He was the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl.
And for people who don't know, he was named the Super Bowl MVP after breaking 2 Super Bowl records. You ready? 340 total yards and being the first to throw 4 touchdowns in a quarter. If you remember, Chris, I think it was the second quarter of that Super Bowl.
Yeah, because it was basically over at half.
It was over. He was unbelievable. He had a monster game. And that was a breakthrough. That was a turning point with the black quarterback. And I'm not knocking Russell Wilson, but the patting on the back for Patrick Mahomes, it ain't like there's 10 quarterbacks since he's done it. I'm just saying, it feels a little contrived.
I think what he says is great. It's fine. But yeah, you don't think of him as a trailblazer for black quarterbacks. And again, that's not an insult. It's not like you question his blackness.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? Nothing like that.
Not at all.
The trailblazer, I think there's a couple waves. The first wave was James Harris, Rob.
Yep.
You remember James Harris played for the Rams. And then and Doug Williams.
And who was the other one with the Steelers? Was it Jim Gilliam?
Joe Gilliam.
Joe Gilliam. Yep.
Who really kind of beat out Bradshaw. Then they made Bradshaw the start. I don't know if Gilliam got hurt.
Right.
But, Bradshaw ended up becoming the starter and the rest is history. But it was James Harris and then Doug Williams. And then, Rob, I think the guy that really kicked the door down was Michael Vick.
100%.
Because
100%, Chris. 100%. And when I think of Michael Vick, you know what I think of? He was the first quarterback to go to Green Bay to win. Like that was one of those moments. Like Green Bay had not lost a home game or something in the postseason. And he was the first one to go in there and win. But I'm with you on Michael Vick. He was the running style and the arm, he did change it.
I mean, it started even a little, like there was a trickling before him. I'm looking now, Rob, and I used to write for ESPN, the magazine, and you probably remember this cover. It was from 1999. So it was April 19th. So I guess that would have been right before the draft. So going into the draft, and they had Achilles Smith, Donovan McNabb, Dante Culpepper, all three of those guys are black, and Cade McNown, who's white. But those four were on there as like the big quarterbacks in that upcoming
And
draft.
think about how long ago that was.
Right, that's 99. So Vick entered the league in 2001. And so it had, like, the doors had started opening. The reason I say Vick kind of bursted open is because I think once he came into the league, and let's face it, he wasn't a Hall of Fame level quarterback. But I think, Rob, even though there had been Randall Cunningham and McNabb ran some, and remember Steve McNair too. But Vick, it was like people started looking at the way he ran, and I think really seeing how, man, you really can have a great runner at quarterback and be competitive in the league. And then I think that, you know, at that point, and I think people start to kind of feel like, well, the game has become more athletic. Linebackers are faster than they used to be and things like that. And I think there just started to be more of an understanding or feeling that, okay, you need a little bit of athleticism. I don't want to overstate it, but I feel, Rob, like Vick, after Vick, it was like, okay, if the best quarterback in the country's black, we're taking him. Because you had Jamarcus Russell and Jameis Winston and all these guys, and drafting a black quarterback number one it wasn't a big deal anymore. Was Vick, Rob G, who was the first black quarterback he might have been the first to be drafted number one. He probably was, right?
Let me give you that. Remember I was telling you about the playoff win while you look it up? He was 22 years old, Chris. They beat the Packers 27-7. This was in 2002. And it was the first time the Packers lost a home playoff game. That was a wild card game. Can you believe that?
Man, yeah. That was it was Michael Vick, Rob. He's the first black quarterback to be drafted number one. So that I was just going off kind of how I felt about it. But that right there is a huge, you know, that's kicking the door in. And now, of course, it's no big deal to see a black quarterback drafted number one. But look, Russell is not taking anything away from him. He is the second quarterback to win black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. He was, Rob G and I were talking about it, and Rob G was like, well, he was a game manager. It wasn't like he led those teams. But I was like, but that was progress. Like before, they weren't going to have a black quarterback as a game manager. You had to be some superhuman athlete like Michael Vick, you know, to get a shot or just a straight drop. I mean, Doug Williams had a cannon. You know, they just couldn't deny him, you know, the right to play. And obviously you had a Warren Moon. But, yeah, I think that was progress in that obviously Russell Wilson was great, but he was a kind of a game manager, which was some progress in the perception of black quarterbacks. But, yeah, I don't. It's nothing. I don't think negatively of him.
It's not negative. It just doesn't sound right.
You don't think of him as a trailblazer for black quarterbacks, though. I mean, he's in that second, third wave of guys, and now it's just natural now.
But you talked about it earlier. All the other black quarterbacks that were drafted to get. I mean that was way before him.
That was a few years before him. So, you know. Now it's obviously commonplace. It seems like about half the teams in the league now may have a black starting quarterback. So